Midjourney has dropped so many new features that it can be overwhelming to a new user. There are over 9,999,999,999 different style reference codes. And with the ability to mix and match different codes, finding the right one for your project can seem impossible. Fortunately, there's a new method for testing to see if these codes are useful for your business. It takes less than a minute. I'm going to show you how to turbocharge your image testing to get the maximum bang for your buck and determine which reference codes to keep in your vault and which ones to send to the shredder. Let's fire up that intro and get into it, because this one, it's going to be a good one. Our story starts with a post on Twitter from Tatiana. Her post says, I use 8 different powerful Midjourney tokens to see if a style works well across different photography types. Her very powerful prompt tests macro, product, studio, movie, food, wildlife, street, and marine life photography to see if a style reference code is useful across the different types of images she generates. Here's the quick example of her testing a style reference code where all the images seem to use a lot of black and dark blue. We're gonna build on top of this prompt and make it even easier to match exactly which style you're gonna test. Let me show you exactly how to do it inside of Midjourney's website. A couple of days ago, when I was making a new thumbnail for one of my YouTube videos, I ran across this new style reference code. I'll often have an idea and run my prompt, which is this exact prompt here. High fashion photography, beautiful Slavic model running from a crashing train, facing camera front light. And then I'll add --sref random, which means style reference random, then -- repeat 10. This will give me 10 different variations to see if one of them just speaks to me and really pops up from the page. I think will be cool for that day's thumbnail. This purple image here was really interesting to me. This is style reference 11233083227. If I want to add this to a prompt, I can just click on it and now I'm locked in. Instead of using random, I'll have this number. Notice that when I add it, it doesn't erase the previous style reference. Now it's going to do random combined with this one, and it's going to be 10 new completely different sets of style reference codes and different types of images. I'm going to take my prompt from our Twitter prompt and let's take it to the next level. So I want to add in this style reference code. I need to delete the original style reference code from her example, and I'm going to do some modifications to make this work for me. The aspect ratio, I like 16:9. It looks better when I'm showing you demonstrations inside of the Midjourney website. That's why I like horizontal images instead of vertical. So I'm going to remove this --AR, which is aspect ratio 2:3. I don't need that unless I'm inside of Discord. Because I use the website for all my demonstrations, it's not really necessary. If I want to get that same aspect ratio, I can just drag my slider to 2:3, but I want 16:9. She has stylization set to 300, that's --300. I can also remove this because I, as standard, set mine to 400. Style weight, I'll leave at 100. That means that the reference is going to be quite strong. And the only other elements I'm going to change, I want to be in raw mode so the style reference code is really dominant. And I want personalization off so that my personal favorite isn't affecting. Now you might leave personalization on because you always want images that are tilted towards what you like, but I want to give you guys the cleanest example possible. Let's see what happens when I run this exact prompt. The images are going to run bottom up because the most recently generated image, which will be the last from the list. So our first image is macro photography with this style reference code. So the prompt, when you have things inside of the 2 brackets, everything between a comma becomes a new variable. So we have 6 different variables here: macro, product, studio, movie stills, food photography, wildlife, street photography, marine life photography. So we're going to see each of these examples. Here's our macro life photography. This is a super zoomed in picture of a bug, and it looks really good. I'm really excited by this. Our next example is product photography. This isn't as useful for a lot of our different projects. Right out the gate, this has a very steampunk aesthetic and everything feels a little bit dirty. Now that may match the style of what type of product you're working on. So this is gonna let you know right out the gate, is this useful for the type of products I use? Or the type of product shirts I use need to look more like spaceships, need to look clean and futuristic. This isn't that style. Our next example is studio photography. It generated 4 different pictures of women. The thing that's really interesting is the dominant purple pink color that's really affecting each of these images in a completely different way. The only way I can know what the style reference is gonna do is with an image like this. This is exactly why I built the Midjourney Visual Dictionary, which you can get free access to right below this video, clicking that link. And of course, I'm gonna be adding more and more of these to Midjourney Visual Dictionary version 2, which is in development, and it's gonna be 20 times bigger than the current Midjourney Visual Dictionary. Our next example is movie stills. This has a very very good aesthetic to me. I like that it feels like it's raining in all 4 pictures, even though there's actually only rain in one of them. This is where this style reference is really shining, and I didn't know what result I was going to get until I ran this prompt. So I'm very pleased with this. This has a very cool kinetic aesthetic. It feels very Bollywood to me, but I really like the way it looks. I like the purple, I like the color, I like how the eyes for each different actor, the men and the women, are all popping. This is very good to me. Next, we have food photography. Rather than taking food and converting it to purple, it adds in a lot of purple foods. That's why we're seeing onions in all of these different pictures, because that's the color purple that it's using. This is some really high level intelligence from Midjourney, and I'm very impressed by this. This isn't what I was expecting. Rather than throwing purple paint all over the image, it found something that is purple and put that item into the image. Very impressive. And then we have wildlife photography. It doesn't quite look like a photograph of the elephant or the top tiger because it's added the purple elements to the actual animal. But the bottom 2 pictures of the fox and the second tiger, they look pretty good. They look photorealistic to me, but all 4 of these are good images. It really comes down to your personal opinion. Do you like the style reference code or do you hate it? Let me know in the comments right below, because that will help me determine what I do. Our next image is street photography. We don't get the purple in all 4 images. We have a purple umbrella in the bottom right, we have a little purple in the rain in the top right, and we have some purple outside the window in the top left, but the bottom left picture is black and white. Sometimes we're gonna get this where a different part of the image, the black and the rain and the aesthetics still come through, but it doesn't pull the color. So there are some really cool things happening with the style reference. It's more than just a color. Our final example is, of course, marine life photography. And here we get fish and crabs and different sea creatures that have this purple iridescent color. And I really like these. I'm very pleased with the style reference code. Expect to see me using it in the future. It's one that I'm putting in the vault. It's not going into the shredder. The second code I tested had a lot of neons and oranges in it. Here's macro photography. This has so much neon that it's almost washing out the image. So it's really almost too much orange. You can barely tell that the bottom 2 images are spiders. I'm not even sure if you guys knew that until I said that. The frog looks great. Again, we have really bright orange colors for the product photography, but I'm not so sure this is useful. It's almost so bright that the products fade into the background. Studio photography, movie stills, the food. Again, they find the right food. It's appear to be orange tomatoes, orange eggs, and then the bottom 2 images do use actual oranges. The animals look really cool. Street photography, I think the best picture from this set is the picture of the man with the orange glasses and the woman with the orange scarf. I really like this because it's very, very creative, and it shows that there are other elements besides washing out the image with orange that are part of the style reference code. And our final example is the fish. We have a really cool clownfish from Finding Nemo, but the orange is so bright that it's just overpowering. Overall, for me, this particular style reference code is going into the shredder because the style reference is so powerful that it overwhelms whatever the picture is actually of. All of these pictures to me look so similar to each other that I couldn't tell them apart, unlike the purple style reference code. This one, I really like where this is going. This is all personal taste, but I think the spider really pops from the background. You can tell what it is. The woman with glasses that almost looks like a tiger woman with glasses, I really like. The butterfly, that one fades into the background a little bit, but the spider is the showstopper for me. For product photography, it's not as useful because the background and foreground are merging together. The camera in the bottom left is the perfect example. The camera is really beautiful, but you can't see it very well because the blue behind it is the exact same shade of blue. This is something that you may have noticed in a previous video I posted. I've recently discovered that if I wear a purple shirt and have a purple background, there are some problems with how the video comes out. My face keeps changing colors because the camera is trying to adjust to the foreground and background being the same color. So I can't wear purple shirts when the background is purple. Same thing I'm seeing here. The background is becoming too important. So even though these are really cool images, the background and foreground are merging. And that's one of the things I'm looking out for when I'm testing a style reference code. Here's our studio photography. We have the exact same issue. All of these characters are merging with the background. With the woman on the top right, I can't tell where the foreground ends and the background begins. And the woman on the bottom right, she looks amazing, but the camera is fading into the background. So there are some uses for this, but not every type of image is right for the style reference code. Here we have movie stills. These are pretty good for me. Again, we have a Bollywood style. I don't know why it's pulling the Bollywood style, if that happens to be because of the colors inside of the style reference code, but these images look pretty good. The 2 on the left to me are the best 2 images from the set, and they appear to be the same man. And both of them, he looks great with those orange sunglasses. These are really good pictures. The food pops, but it doesn't look like real food. It just looks really cool. So when you're testing a style reference code, it comes down to what you're looking for. In our final test, we got a bunch of different cats. We have cheetah and 3 tigers. These images came out really good for me. I like these a lot. So for wildlife photography, I think we have something very interesting here. I like the macro photography results. And let's see how our street photography came out. While I like these images, there's something that I want to draw your attention to. All of the characters are facing away from camera. This style reference has a strong face away from the camera built into the prompt. Normally, when I'm designing images, I want facing the camera. I very rarely use images of a person's back. If you look at all of my thumbnails, all of my previous examples, I like people facing the camera. This comes down to what type of art you're creating. If you like people walking into the distance, like the end of every single superhero movie, then maybe you really like this style. But it's just something to be aware of, that you'll have to add into your prompts the phrase facing camera to fight against this, and you're still gonna end up with some issues where the character's facing the wrong direction, or the body goes one way, the head goes the other. Great example of marine life photography. I'm very pleased with this picture. I think this looks really great. It's a little hard to tell what the bottom right creature is. I'm not sure that one's real. In fact, I think it's adding characteristics to all of these fish that aren't actually real. It's creating artificial characters because the style reference is asking for a lot of tentacles. I don't think every single sea creature has tentacles, but these do look really, really cool. The next thing I want to test is these different photography styles. How do they affect when I have an entire prompt next to them? So in this case, the prompt is woman paratrooper jumping out of a plane. I have a character reference so that it's the same woman in every single picture. This is the direction we're moving in as we're using this in a more useful way. Style is still set to raw so that the prompt is really strong. Macro photography, it's not really happening here. It's not really zoomed in on her like we've seen in the previous images where it's super close, or it's showing like an ant or a bug or a spider. Same thing happens with product photography, studio photography, movie stills. This one does look way better. So movie stills does affect the image, and this is giving us a sense of how useful these prompts are when we're doing pictures of people, because we're then going to switch to character prompts to show you how to use this even further. Here we see food photography. It doesn't add any food to the pictures. Wildlife photography, same thing. All these are basically the same picture. So the prompt at the beginning isn't really affecting them. The type of photography isn't making a difference for these images. Street photography, we see that example of where the head goes one way, the body goes the other. It's an unfortunate mistake. Now we're going to move into testing other variables to see if a style reference code is useful for you. For this next test, I'm looking for a new style reference code that I want to play around with. So I ran the prompt, high fashion photography, beautiful model wearing a Dior suit in a corporate office, facing camera, front light, hyper realistic, style reference random. Our first style reference has a very strong orange and very strong 1960s aesthetic. Our second image is washed out. We can't really see the woman because it almost feels like there's chalk over top of the image. The same thing happens here with this pictures, these women, the light, it feels overexposed. And then this one I really like. This has a really cool aesthetic. This is a new look, a new style reference code I haven't seen. If you want this one, it's 35565838827. Our other examples for me are okay, but not really interesting enough. There's not enough happening. Either the colors are overwhelming the picture, so it's not useful, or it's too much of a washed out colors. So these are all style reference codes. I know I don't need to test because I don't like the aesthetic from my very first example. If you want to test style reference codes with a specific actress or AI character that you've generated, if you watch my previous videos on making an AI influencer or an AI supermodel, you can run the exact same prompt, but you just add in your style reference code. And you want to make sure you add in at the end of your prompt --CW0 character weight 0, so that just pulls her face through, not her outfit, and you get 10 new style codes. So this is the exact prompt that I used. I personally always use my reference codes in a certain order, but it doesn't matter. So I have --sref random, --CW0, --repeat 10. This will give me 10 different style reference codes with this specific actress in it so that I get a more specific result. This can be really useful if you want to see exactly how your character will look in different settings as opposed to a generic character. Let's go through these and see if any of these really pop out. This one's quite interesting. I think this is a better 1960s aesthetic than we saw earlier. It has some really cool coloration to it. This one I also like a lot, very interesting to me. A little too bleak, a little too fisheye lens for me, but you might like different ones of these designs, different style reference codes, but this is how I get a ton to play around with. I want to test different types of fashion photography to see what type of result we can get. So I have bracket fashion photography, comma, high fashion photography, comma, maximalism fashion photography, comma, minimalism fashion photography, comma, full body fashion photography, comma, modern fashion photography, comma, magazine photography, and glamour photography, bracket, woman in a green puffy jacket, urban exploration, Dutch angle, style reference code 35565883827. In order to run this prompt, we need to add some more text to it. We're just gonna add --CW, 0 character weight 0, so that her face pulls through, but we don't need to use her outfit from the original image, our reference image that we're using. And here's what our results look like. First, for fashion photography, it's okay. High fashion photography, maximalism, minimalism, full body, modern, magazine, glamour photography. Why do all of these look the same? Because the style reference code is too strong. Let me show you an example of this. When I was building out my AI influencer and turning into a supermodel, one of the prompt variables I was testing were different types of photography. So I want to use the exact same process, and then we're going to mix and match this with my style reference code to show you exactly how we can take this to the next level. So for this variable test, I bracket fashion photography, comma, high fashion photography, comma, maximalism, minimalism, full body, modern, magazine photography, and glamour photography. And I want to see very quickly how much of a difference these different variables make with this prompt. And the part of the prompt that will stay consistent is female model with pink silk tracksuit. Let's clear that out the way. So with maximalism, what we start to see is a lot more happening in the background rather than the foreground. She's on this really cool couch or has flowers behind her. With minimalism, the background becomes much flatter. There's a lot more attention on her. And immediately, this is the difference between street photography and studio photography. It has a very big difference. Our next variable is fashion photo, fashion photography. This has a little bit of a stronger aesthetic, especially the picture of her in front of the green wall. This is a really good picture that I could see in a magazine. I think this really pops. I think it's the best one of the set. High fashion photography, we're seeing more lighting, more effects. There's a lot of shadow to the side of her. There's more things happening. Our next variable is maximalism again. This time it's drawing more attention to her. Minimalism, flat background. Full body, the camera pulls out a little bit. We're not able to get her legs into the shot. It's still resisting that. We may have to change the aspect ratio or use our pan function to pull her legs into the picture, but these are still a different style. And it's better for you to look at these images than to listen to my description, because your eyes will tell you what you like and don't like far better than my words will. Next, we have modern fashion photography. This has modern lenses, modern lighting. The hairstyles feel very, very right now. There's a lot more happening. It feels like the model went through more of a process before the cameras turned on. There's a lot more happening in the studio. We have magazine photography, and finally glamour photography, which leads to a different set of expressions, a little bit more of that boudoir vibe. But this is what another way we can use this ability to have different variables in our prompt with a bracket rather than copying and pasting the same prompt and changing one word manually. This is a way to do it with variables inside of the prompt, just like an old math equation from high school. Not my favorite thing to remember. But now, what I really am excited by is mixing and matching this with testing out a style reference, because that's what this video is all about. So let's test out our style reference code. So now we have minimalism, fashion photography, female model with pink silk tracksuit with our style reference variable. And I'll put the prompt right below the video so you can check it out and test it yourself with the different style reference codes. Now we can see how this style reference code changes each of these photography styles. Here's full body, here's modern, here's magazine, glamour, fashion, high fashion, and maximalism. We're getting a completely different style of image because the style reference is making a really big influence. There's one more thing that we're gonna test. I think is gonna be very exciting. I was testing different style reference codes where I wanted a picture of a Macintosh computer when I was talking about the Mac ChatGPT app. Each of these has such a different look, but I don't know how this aesthetic here, which looks amazing, will look on a person. So we're gonna try another prompt that I think is very cool. This time, our variable is the actual subject of the image. So we have man playing lacrosse, woman riding a motorcycle on the moon, cyber goth woman, futuristic city, volcano, alligator swimming in a river. This is where you can really build out your own custom version of this prompt for the types of images that you generate, which are gonna be different than my types of images. So rather than looking at macro and micro photography and different types of photography, you probably care more about what types of characters. If you do a lot of settings as opposed to people, then you wanna check an image maybe that's a lake scene, city scene, urban setting, whatever the different landscapes you use are, that's probably more useful for you. So let's test this style reference code and see what we get. There are two key elements to a style reference. There are the colors that are dominant and then there's the way those colors are created. These feel like 4 paintings. There's a lot of that red or almost burnt sienna, which was my favorite crayon as a kid. Had that feeling of a sunset. These are really, really nice images. That pole, that red we saw from the computer screen, woman riding a motorcycle on the moon, cybergoth woman, this came out really cool. I wasn't sure what I was gonna get. Futuristic city, this feels very steampunk city, almost like an alternative future, maybe a type of future where Russia won World War II or steam became the dominant force in the world and gasoline was never discovered. There's something interesting here. We're still seeing the yellows and the reds, that burnt sunset color, that burnt sienna. Volcano makes a lot of sense with that orange color. Alligator, pretty cool, swimming in a river. So this is a way that you can create your own custom style reference tests, whether you want to test the photography style, whether you want to test different coloration styles, and you can use this to test other variables like lighting, different subjects, different prompts, and you can even use it to run a bunch of style reference variables if you want to test that as well. So this is a really powerful tool. Style reference codes are only useful if we know how they're going to look before we use them. There is no way to know what a model using a style reference code is going to look like until I actually test it. I don't know from looking at a computer picture what a picture of an alligator is going to look like. Having this ability to quickly test a batch of variables is going to be an absolute game changer and allows me and you to test style reference codes very quickly for aesthetics and usefulness. Is this only good in some situations? Is this good in every situation? Is this one I want to add to my personal collection, or is this one I'm going to use sometimes? And is this one that I'm never going to use? Sometimes a style reference code will generate a really good image, but only once, and it's random and luck. It's not going to come back again. So I want to pull that number out of my favorites collection and not reuse it. I'm going to be dissatisfied from the results. This is a really powerful tool, and I hope you found this tutorial useful because a lot of work went into this. A lot of my tests didn't make it into the final video. I'm really putting my new video editor absolutely to the test with this project. I hope you found this educational, informative, or at least a little bit interesting. If you did, please take a moment to hit the like button. That will help other people to see these videos and will help this channel to grow. I'm on a mission to hit 2,000 subscribers this month, and you can bring me one step closer by hitting the subscribe button yourself. More of my videos will show up in your feed when you do that. And if you want to get notified every single time I post a video, that's amazing. Just hit the bell button. I am a small channel. That does mean that I personally read and respond to every single comment. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this new powerful style reference code testing tool. Is this useful? Is this not useful? What was your favorite style reference code? What would you like to see in future videos? Your feedback means a lot to me, and it's going to help this channel grow. Thank you so much for lasting all the way to the end. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching one of my videos. Hit the like button, and then I've got a couple of sweet videos that I think you're gonna like. I've got one here and another one over here. You're gonna love them.